Hi, folks. This is Rick Doc Walker, the DOC.
This is John Kime, and you're listening to the Mess Hall with Rally Captain and Tailgate Ted.
What's going on, Rally? Happy Thanksgiving, man.
Hey, brother, happy Thanksgiving to you as well as to our listeners and to their family members. And for everybody that's traveling, listening to the DMV Mess Hall, be safe. And if by chance you have something to drink, call rideshare. We want everybody around, and it's just too easy.
It really is. I think we're recording this now. It's Wednesday. I think they call it Drinksgiving, just because everyone typically goes out the night before Thanksgiving because they're back in town and they're kind of catching up. I used to hang out with a bunch of buddies I went to school with the night before Thanksgiving, and we were all back from, our different places. Granted, I never left. I've always been here, but it was always just an S show. So for those of you going out, having a good time, just be safe about it. We got a big game this week against Tennessee that we're going to get into. We need all y'all out there to cheer this team on because Rally and I are going to get into it. And I've got my opinions on how important this thing is. I definitely want to hear Rally's thoughts about it. And we can definitely use some backup out there in those stands because there were more Cowboys fans at that game this past week than I expected, considering their team hasn't been doing too well. You walked around the lots. Were you as surprised as I was, or you figured, they don't care if they're losing. They're still coming out to give us a hard time anyway?
Well, to be honest with you, I was not able to walk around as much as I normally do. Having some leg issues or hip issues or whatever you want to call it. So normally I stop at your tailgate and then I make my way to others, but yours was the last one, and then I made my way inside the building. So, but on my short trek that I did do, I didn't really see a lot of Cowboys fans. And for me, I'm going to go opposite of what you said. I I heard Cowboy fans, but I didn't necessarily see Cowboy fans. When we gave them something to cheer about, oh, they were loud as I don't know what. Um, but walking around, I really didn't see that many Cowboy fans. But I did see them sprinkled in on their sidelines and cheering the way that they're supposed to when good things happen for them.
Yeah, it was frustrating. I'm not gonna lie. It's been tough couple of days trying to swallow that pill that they force fed us. I mean, they
Yeah.
wanted they wanted to give us the damn game, right? It's just they
Yeah.
were what, 2 for 12, I think, on third down. I mean, if you would have told me we would have held the Cowboys to, yeah, I'm just pulling the stats up now, 2 for 11 on third down, right? If we would have blocked a punt, blocked a field goal, I'm thinking we're beating these guys by more than 10 points. I mean, to have a 10.5 point spread against Dallas and to have those things happen, I'm thinking we're running away with this thing.
Oh yeah.
And next thing you know, right, our offense just can't go anywhere. Dallas was giving up 151 on the ground coming into this game. And I think all in all, rushing wise, yeah, we got a buck 45 in the end. But if you fast forward through the game, there were what, I think 4 minutes left. I got to go back, and I've been trying to forget about it, to be honest with you. I've been busy as hell with Harvest Feast and just so annoyed with this entire thing. But 9 points through 56 minutes of the game. All right. 56 minutes of this damn game went through, and we had only scored 9 points. And to me, it all started with that 4th and 2 in the first, where Dan Quinn decided to kick the ball and go for a 51-yard field goal versus trying to punch the ball down their throats, which was the complete opposite of what we did in that Philly game, where the offense wasn't really moving the ball, and yet we decided to still go for it. So that's where my frustration started for the day. I mean, how about you?
My frustration started. I'm not necessarily going to say that it started with the field goal because, in my eyes, you brought your field goal kicker out. You thought he was healthy. You brought him back for a reason. So I wasn't thinking on that aspect of things. It just seemed as though we were off, and it showed. And so that was my biggest thing. There wasn't one thing in particular that did it for me. It was collective uh things that went bad that just made me just say, "Oh man!" And I think what really did it. So if I want to look back and I want to say what started it, maybe it was everyone saying that we were going to beat these guys by 10. When I said I don't like that, it's good. It's good to be talked upon, but I feel as though we were damned if we do, damned if we don't. And what I mean by that is we're damned if we beat the Cowboys because people will say, "Well, they're just the Cowboys," and damned if we don't. And it's like you guys got beat by the Cowboys, so it's just one of those things that we were in a no-win situation. And like you, I'm happy it's over with. I When you look at where we had the ball each possession, they're 30, they're 40, they're on the 50, our 45. It's crazy, and to see that we didn't put any points up,
Yeah.
that's crazy. It's
It
crazy.
was it it's inexcusable, right? To see what happened. I get Brian Robinson got hurt, but to me, the problem with the first half was Kliff Kingsbury's maybe inability or refusal to adjust to Dallas's game plan. I mean, I went back and watched the game first thing Monday morning because Monday I was going to be busy and I wanted to get it over with, right? And I figured just rip off the band-aid. And particularly the first half and watching all of those offensive plays in slow motion. There weren't a ton of them because we weren't completing a ton of third downs. So I mean, the drives were few and far between, right? But Dallas was bringing more people than we could block and overloading different guys, right? And Kingsbury hardly ever adjusted by keeping a back in or keeping someone else in to chip and go out. And it just felt like they kept talking the week prior about practice, 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 right? Practice makes perfect is what we named the last episode. I felt like they thought, well, we practiced this, so no matter what, we should be able to execute it, even though Dallas's game plan seemed to have been prepared for whatever Kingsbury wanted to throw at him. And finally, in the second half, we went with 13 personnel, right? Three tight ends is 13 personnel. But at that point, Brian Robinson was hurt. So you've got Austin Eckler, and hopefully he'll be okay. He's not playing this week. I highly doubt it. He's in concussion protocol right now. He had to go to the hospital after the game in an ambulance. So not sure what's going to happen to him. That's two concussions in one season. So I just hope the guy's okay. I don't care if he comes back out on the field. And if he comes back out on the field, make sure he's good. Because the last thing we want to see is another, Jordan Reed type scenario where that guy just never got to play again because he got too banged up. But you go 13 personnel with a tiny ass running back that's not Brian Robinson because finally you realize, well, I need to keep more people on the block and I'm going to try and run this ball, but you're doing it with the wrong running back. And Brian Robinson was talking to the sports junkies today. He basically said that his ankles swelled up during halftime, and that's why he didn't come back out. He was on the sideline and was testing it out, but he never stepped back on that field because it actually got too swollen for him to do anything. And I just feel that he should have made that adjustment to go jumbo and bigger and help block more in the first half when, you still had that bruiser that was still out there.
Well, Ted, I got to tell you what I believe is a number of things. One, I believe that no matter what anybody tells me, we read Dallas's press clippings. We read our press clippings. Oh, they're the worst team in the league. Oh, everybody scores on them. Oh, you guys are 10-point faves. That plays to the psyche of the player. I hate to say that because these are guys who get paid money, but at the end of the day, they are human beings first, who have emotions, who have thoughts, and us on the outside, we look at it as you get paid all that money to do this, but yet at the same time, that's a robot. these guys, they read, they listen. It Everyone was saying you guys should just knock them off their blocks. And for a second, I even said it. But in the back of my mind, I still said, yeah, but they get paid too. And so I think that that's what really did it for us. And maybe this is one of those things to where it brings it home to some people. Maybe it does. I'm hoping it does, and I'm hoping that we're I'm moving a little ahead of here, but I'm hoping that this black uniform that we plan on wearing on Sunday isn't to our detriment, and we're wearing black to our own funeral. But going back to Dallas,
We're wearing black this Sunday? I didn't hear that.
oh yeah,
That worries
oh
me.
yeah,
I mean, it
oh
just, it is what it is. Where, I mean, I don't think that really matters. I am superstitious, don't get me wrong. I still have my 2 waffles every morning, and we're doing waffles at the tailgate coming up for the game. We're doing Nashville hot chicken and waffles with a little bourbon and maple syrup on top. So at least I'm going to eat good in the parking lot again, just in case I lose my appetite during the game.
okay. Wait a minute. It's gonna be like 25 degrees out, 30 degrees outside. How are you gonna keep that stuff warm?
Oh,
And
we
I
got,
know, I
yeah,
know, I know you got the Bunsen burners or whatever, not Bunsen burners, but the heat
Sternos.
thermos. But
Yeah,
does that really keep the food warm when it's that cold?
it does. You just got to put more Sternos underneath with that heat
Okay,
bath. So
okay.
I mean, it's definitely doable, and they're talking for snow. There's like a small percentage of snow,
Ooh,
so I'm curious to see how it's going to be. I've got people telling me, "Hey, we're going to come out, we're going to come tailgate." I'm like, really? Or are you just going to roll up at 12 o'clock and go inside because it's going to be too cold for your ass? But we'll see what happens. They did ask Jaden about how he's preparing to play in the cold weather during his press conference today, and he's like, it's football. You're just going to go do it. And I think that's because of the press conference he had the week prior, talking about that wrap and trying to keep him warm, right? But looking at Jaden in that Cowboys game, he doesn't look bad to me. He looks healthy. He used his legs. He did everything he needed to, other than I looked at a couple of other clips. Dan Orlovsky and a couple other people were talking about how Jaden was just missing or making the wrong decisions, and that people have figured out Kingsbury's offense, and Terry's lining up in the same place too much, and blah, blah, blah. This is actually what Jaden had to say about how Dallas stopped their offense.
Late in the game, the offense got going, but for 3 quarters, it was really pretty tough sledding. What did Dallas do that was so difficult for you guys today?
We just haven't been executing how we did prior. Our execution, throughout this game, we had short fields, stuff like that. We just didn't capitalize on those opportunities.
I think it's a matter of not executing, but I also think it's a matter of people figuring out what we like to do and not changing it. And I was actually talking to Logan Paulson during Harvest Feast, right? During Harvest
okay.
Feast, and those that don't know what that is, the Commanders give out 2,500 meals to deserving families in the PG County area, right? And you get everything you need to make a Thanksgiving meal, drinks, and a turkey. So I help run
Drinks.
that thing for the team, like sodas, right?
Okay,
You get a couple 2-liter sodas, nothing, alcoholic or fun, but
okay.
they give you what you need to have a Thanksgiving meal for your family.
Gotcha, gotcha.
And people come through. They had alumni there. So Doc Walker was there. It was good to see Doc. Tim Hightower was there. Eddie Mason. Smoot gave a speech. Joshua Morgan. Logan Paulson. And excuse me if I'm missing anybody else, but I think those were all the alumni that were there. So talking to Logan, because Logan does his film breakdown and everything else, and hearing, his thoughts. I mean, he does a show with trying to think of his name, Craig Hoffman, right? Called Take Command. It's a great podcast. Listen to them after you listen to us. And everyone is talking about Kingsbury's tendencies, how Terry lines up on the left side of the field a majority of the time, right? And how Jaden likes throwing to the right side of the field. And if you go back and think about it, that pass where Terry scored that touchdown at the end to basically almost tie the game up was a pass to the right side of the field, right? So you have all these, I guess, football nerds, for lack of a better term, that are going out there saying everyone's figured out Kingsbury. Everyone's figured out Kingsbury. And defenses have done that too. And he's not adjusting. I'm sorry, lack of execution is one thing, but I am starting to believe that everyone's figured out Kingsbury. And I think that is a huge issue with what's been going on with this offense. I mean, do you put any stock in that?
Yes and no. Um, I think that the coach calls plays, the players have to make do with those plays. So, as a professional football player, which I never was, so maybe I can't speak too highly or too much on this, but we always hear the announcers, the commentators, whatever have you, they say, look how the receiver found that open spot in the zone, or look how that receiver found this open spot. If you're a professional and you know that they're doing certain things, then if the play hypothetically calls for 8 yards and stop, maybe 8 yards and move a little bit more. I don't know. I think that to a degree, all defenses know what the offensive coordinator is going to do, but their receivers or their players, however you want to look at it, find a way to find the open spot. We hear it all the time. And they may not have enough time to get to that open spot, Ted, because of our line is banged up. And as you said, they were bringing a lot of pressure, a lot of bodies. So, and we've always said you could have Peyton Manning, for instance, in the backfield or Tom Brady in the backfield. But if the line can't necessarily hold their blocks, it doesn't matter. So that's what I see. And I could be wrong, but that's just what I see. I think that and everyone's banged up at this point, but I feel as though you got to be able to adjust and figure something else out. That's my take on it.
Yeah. This is actually what DQ had to say about his thoughts on this stat that's been going around.
Hey, Dan, to be a little more specific on that topic, whether you agree with this conversation that exists about Kliff Kingsbury's offenses over the years, it does exist, and you probably were aware of it prior to making the hire. What was your thought about that at the time, and what's your thought of it now when people bring it up because the offense has been in a little bit of decline of late?
Sure. I probably don't give it as much, Ben, and here's why. You're talking about a different program with different people and different players. And so I think going into and you're putting in a system together, you want to make sure that you're featuring the players and the things that they do best and all of that. And so I think Kliff's done a good job of that. Although there are like peaks and valleys in any season that's going to go, I don't have a sense of what somebody did well before, because the system that was in place there is not the same exact carbon copy as the one here.
So I get, to a degree, the system's not the same, right? You've got different players that can do different things. But our buddies at Ref the District were pulling up stats on what the Cardinals used to do with their number one receiver and what we're doing with Terry, and how what people like to do, right? And this is probably a horrible example for people that have never played pickleball, right? But I know when I'm going against certain people on a court, right? I know that they like to do X, Y, and Z in certain scenarios.
Sure.
And to me, shoot.
I said, sure.
I'm going to analogize that to, and they have this. They have the Microsoft Surfaces on the sideline, right? It's 3rd and 2. Kingsbury typically likes to do this. It's, 2nd and 7. They typically do this. I mean, we can see that as fans by looking at different websites, like a team's run tendencies. We run a majority of time on first down, right? The percentage is crazy high. I want to say we're like top 4 in the league rushing on first down. So defenses typically bring a heavier set out and stack the box on us on first down, because you know it's going to be a run. Like if you play your buddy in Madden, which I haven't done in a long time, but we all know when we did that, okay, so-and-so typically likes to do this type of thing, and you prep for it, right? If you don't throw a wrinkle inside there, then they can do what they need to do to try and put their players in a good situation to stop you. But yes, to your point, the players still have to execute, and the players can out execute the players they're going up against, right? That kick return by Turpin and that spin move, damn good play. Freaking hat tip to them. They earned that. We screwed up, but it was a damn good play, right?
Yeah.
The fumble by John Bates. John Bates had a heck of a catch, and it was a damn good punch out by the Dallas defender to get that ball out of there, right? And there sometimes the other team, they're professionals. They get paid too, and they make good plays. And those were two phenomenal plays that completely changed the face of this game. But don't give them any help, right? Don't make it easier for them where you become too predictable.
This might be a dumb question, but there's been much to do outside the building about where Terry McLaurin lines up, if he's primarily on the left or if he's moved around. Does that matter? You know, I'm curious what your thoughts are from a defensive perspective too. Does that matter really?
It can for sure. It's there's no dumb questions here. No, I'm just as I was going into it, like it does matter on certain plays and concepts to go. Certain teams it matters more than others if they're the primary part of where you're going to go. Years back, the Colts were pretty good and they just played left and right, but that's all they always did. And that was effective, with Reggie and Marvin and how they utilized those guys. So I would say it's a little bit specific to the club, Nikki. And the reason I say that is you can be left and right like Coach Moore did, utilizing those guys, and you can in breaks from the same location to the same side to catch the same pass all the time. So you could make cases for that as well as moving people into different locations. I think the long-winded answer is probably there's a combination that works, for both.
So he's saying it can matter. And for me, the offense has been stifled, right? The offense has just basically been shut down the past couple of weeks. And then they blamed it on it being a short week, right? You got the Steelers game going into the Eagles game, right? Okay, I buy that. They blamed it on not having a full week of practice together, right? Okay, well, now you had 10 days to prepare. You had a full week of practice with all your guys out there. What's the excuse now? That's my question as a fan. What is the excuse now that you're going to try and feed me as to why we lost to the Cowboys, as to why our offense, who had amazing field position, couldn't do a damn thing against a Dallas team that was giving up 151 yards on the ground, that was giving up at least 27 points the last 5 games, to the point of you only scored 9 with 4 minutes left to go in the game? I don't know.
Well, maybe Dallas still believes that there is a rivalry, and they came to play. How about that?
Well, yeah, they definitely came to play, but to me,
out of the one game out of the year, they showed up to play, and I hate to say it, was reading our press clippings.
Quinn talked about it earlier on the season. How do you stop the team from reading the press clippings? And I don't buy that, right? I don't think that is the case. You've got vets, Bobby Wagner, you've got Zach Ertz, guys that have won Super Bowls, right? I mean, so maybe some of the young bucks are doing that, but there are other guys on this team. And I just feel that some of the coaching, just looking at a stat here, most targets over the last 4 weeks, right? Guess what offensive player, either running back, tight end, or wide receiver, has had the most targets over the last 4 weeks?
Tight end.
That's close. Zach Ertz has been targeted the second most over the last 4 weeks with 24.
Yeah, tight end. Yeah.
The first player, right? Noah Brown with 27 targets over the last 4 weeks. And there's only 4 people on this list. It's not going through the entire roster. Terry McLaurin only has 17 targets over the last 4 weeks. And if you're going to line him up in the exact same spot every time, if you're not going to move him around and try and get advantageous matchups for him, then you're doing your team a disservice. You're doing your playmaker a disservice. The Cowboys target CeeDee Lamb just a ridiculous amount of times. When we went up against neighbors in week 1, right, or week 2, I think it was like 16 or 17 times they targeted him. We just don't see that when it comes to trying to get Terry the ball. And the thing that drives me crazy is this isn't a Kingsbury narrative. We were having this problem when it was Bieniemy, right? We were having this problem even before then. I just don't understand why the Commanders or Washington football doesn't try to take advantage to try and get Terry more involved in the game. When we all saw what he did when he got involved with that freaking 86-yard touchdown. I mean, prior to that, I think he only had less than 20 yards. I don't get it.
Well, I think like anything else, that touchdown, they're in prevent, and you know that prevent only prevents you from winning. So, it happens every game when it's late in the game like that. They play a little softer, and because they know that they've got help and they want to keep everything in front. So, I that's what I believe. I'm not taking anything away from the throw that Jade made or the catch and run that Terry made. Not taking anything away from that, but they're playing a little softer. You know, they've got that thought process. There's no way these guys can score, so we'll play a little bit back, and we wind up scoring. So I think it's a little different fourth quarter vibe than 1 through 3rd, first through third, if you will, and that's what that shows me. I mean, it made great for TikTok vids and NFL Today type stuff, but at the end of the day, they were playing a little soft. They weren't playing as hard as they normally would have, and I don't think that pass play would have made it if it was the first quarter. So
we were only down by 1 score at that point, right? So going back and looking at the play, they weren't in a full prevent, right? It's just Terry made a heck of a play, and he kicked it into a gear that I did not know he had, right? What I'm saying is I don't understand why we didn't try some of these things. Or why does our back always have to be up against the wall, right? We are what? What's our freaking record now, man? I guess I'm so annoyed at this point. I'm trying to freaking. Yeah, right now we're 7-5, right? If you go back and think about it, if we drop that Hail Mary, right? We're going to be 7-6, right? There's just so many things. And yes, we have won close games and we've lost close games, but I'm just not sure what's going to happen with the second half of this. But still staying on this topic, when Terry ran that thing back and you saw it, what were you thinking? Like, I mean, because he's running right towards you in your end zone. What were you thinking at that point?
My video that I posted says it all, from the touchdown to the after the point miss. I think I said, "Will you look at this? Will you look at this? Will you look at this? Oh my goodness!" And then he did it, and I said, "Oh my goodness, Hail Mary Part 2," you know. But to no avail, no. I was as shocked like everybody else. We know we can do it. But see, here's the other thing. You know, Jaden is, for the most part, our golden boy. And a lot of times you look the other way when you have a golden boy. Well, if we're going to be honest, Jaden, our golden boy, is missing open receivers. Now, I can't say anything bad about that because I've never played football as an NFL quarterback. But what we always say is people lie, the tape doesn't lie. So he, for whatever reason, he is missing certain things. But to be honest, he's missed these things all through the season. We just had a better way of making up for it, some shape, form, or fashion. I'm not quite sure how, but he's done that all season. So Ted, to be honest with you, man, and this may sound like a cop out, which I don't want to sound like a cop out, but I got to just speak my mind. I'm happy that we won 7 games, man, and we still have more football to play. But if by chance we do not do better, we have exceeded our expectations, and everyone is still saying that we are 2 years out. That's what everyone's saying.
Don't talk about playoffs. You kidding me?
You didn't hear me say it either. You didn't hear me say that word. I said that people are saying that we're 2 years away technically, because we just have some shortcomings if we're going to be honest with each other. And we talk mess, but it comes time for the rubber to meet the road, and we are missing some things. And I'm not a defensive coordinator. I'm not an offensive coordinator. I just know that, like everyone else, we've got to get better pieces, and the pieces that we do have need to make better plays. That's what I'll say. But make no bones about it, no one can ever tell you that I don't love this squad. I'm just going to be real with it. And they are my squad, and I still want them to do well. And we are going to win some games. We're going to win more games this season. But we've got to be able to make plays, and our golden boy has to be able to see those plays.
So Pro Football Focus graded Jayden the best offensive player this past week, right? They gave him a 76 for passing, a 90 for running, right? He had 86.5 overall. I agree with you. He needs to see better plays. He's missed some receivers. Some of his decision making has seemed off this past week. And not even getting into the Eagles game, but he actually looked like Jayden again, considering we were all questioning if he was injured that Eagles game. I didn't see him short hopping balls this week. I didn't see any of that stuff happening. He overthrew a couple of guys, right? That pass to Zach Ertz over top on the right-hand side of the field where he was, around the 5-yard line. He threw Terry out of bounds. He wasn't making these mistakes or making these misses the first half of the season. And I'm thinking, I'm sorry, part of that is just defenses adjusting. They're adjusting where they're lining up. And if you go back and look at like Dan Orlovsky and some of these other guys that have broken down film, right? Mark Bullock, defenses are lining themselves up in different spots where those windows are now tighter. Those throws are not as easy anymore. So he has to put a little more touch on it versus what he had to do before in a couple weeks prior. So they're adjusting. And we're now going to be in December. It's December football, and they have a ton of tape on what we like to do, what Jayden likes to do. But by no means am I putting this on this kid, because that kid kept us, and I know you're not either, but that kid is why we're ahead of schedule. That kid has kept us in, right? Andrew Wiley got knocked out the game. So next thing you know, all right, we're back to Trent Scott coming in at right tackle, right? The offensive line didn't do him a good job. From a pass blocking perspective, right? They weren't doing a damn good job blocking at all. Sam Cosme's getting beat. Cosme got a 49 grade overall. He got a 45 run block grade. Tyler Biadasz wasn't doing well. Part of this, I'm sure, is because guys were hurt. Nick Allegretti got a 28 for his pass blocking grade, right? That's freaking horrendous. But you could see him getting beat. Part of that is because Dallas was overloading what they call the A gap, watching the game and just going back over it. And you and I really don't get a chance to see this when we're at the game. We're kind of watching the play and what's going on. Unless you're going back and actually focusing on this, you're just kind of missing it. But Kingsbury should see this, right? And maybe this is me being naive, but I don't know. Do you think it matters that he's on the sideline and not up in the booth? Because his view was the same as ours to a degree. I mean, more like mine than yours, because you're in the end zone and I'm on the sideline. But he's not seeing everything and what's going on, just being right there on the sideline.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but doesn't he have communication with the booth?
Oh, he does. He's got communication with people up there, but he's the one calling the plays, right? If I'm the one in charge and I'm the one making the meal, I'm the one that wants to see and understand everything that's going into it. right? If I could see that Nick Allegretti's getting his ass beat on every single freaking play when we're passing, I'm going to keep a back end to protect.
So I hear what you're saying, and it all depends on his style of coaching. Some coaches feel they can see things better from their perspective. You like 45, 50-yard line. I like end zone because I can see the play. I see it. I see the developing and I see it closing. So I think it's his preference. I do believe that he wants the best for the team as well as himself. And if he felt that was going to be the better uh, eye position, I'm sure that he would go up top. But for whatever reason, something is holding him back. So maybe he needs to be able to talk to the players one on one when they come off the field, or who knows what. Um, if we think that, and we've said this before, if we think that it's going to get easier these last couple weeks, we're lying to ourselves. Tennessee, their record doesn't show that they're a good team, but they've got a hell of a defense. And if the windows were closed or smaller with Dallas, I can only imagine what the windows will look like with Tennessee and New Orleans and the Eagles again, Atlanta and Dallas again. As you said, there's tape, and they know what to look for and how to put him into a bind. I'm hoping that, in all honesty, that he can dial those VR goggles in a little bit tighter and do something better, so that he can see more, or Quinn or Kingsbury can give him, or even Mr. Witt can give him some better looks through those VR goggles, so that he knows what he wants to do. Because, as you said, this is December football, and the competition has eyes all over the place, and who know exactly what you want to do, why you want to do it, when you want to do it.
So our offense was succeeding when we could run the ball, right? And
Mhm.
we haven't been able to do it. And B-Rob was on the injury report. Let me see if I can pull this up. Eckler, I highly doubt he's going to be available, that he's going to be out there. Austin Eckler, DNP. Brian Robinson, limited with an ankle. So I don't know if he's going to be available. We brought Chris Rodriguez back. They had to cut him earlier on in the week. I think they cut him on Friday or Saturday because they needed to bring Devontae and Jean-Baptiste back, and they needed that roster spot.
Mhm.
Well, they had to bring Chris Rodriguez back, and I was pretty frustrated because a couple of mistakes I feel happened going into that game, right? Was Austin Seibert really healthy? Because they took Seibert off the injury report. When you take him off the injury report, that means he's 100%, that he's a full go. So Zane, gone. Goodbye. Thank you. Okay, we didn't need him, right? They took Brian Robinson and made sure he was good to go, right? So they let Rodriguez go, right? They've been keeping McNichols and Eckler there. Rodriguez was basically B-Rob's, safety blanket. And anyone that plays fantasy football, you know that you always like to get the backup guy for your primary guy, right? And well, Rodriguez was his backup guy. They didn't have him when all of a sudden B-Rob went down that week. And I'm thinking, hearing B-Rob talk, and he's going to be straight. No, he goes down. So this week, going up against Tennessee, I don't know what to expect, because you mentioned it earlier. Tennessee's got a heck of a defense, man. They are second in total defense in yards per game, right? They are first in passing yards per game. They're only giving up 169 yards a game in the air. They're only giving up 106 yards on the ground. I don't know how they are only 3-8 with those defensive stats, other than the fact that they're just not scoring points. I mean, Tennessee only puts up 18 points a game. So their offense is anemic, but their defense is freaking top notch. So that's kind of the conundrum I don't get as to why they're not doing as well. I mean, this is what DQ had to say about Tennessee's run defense.
What makes Tennessee's run defense so good, and is that a particular challenge, I guess, this week?
It's an excellent challenge. Really stout inside. I thought, honestly, that their whole defense has really played tough. They've played well on third down. There's square in how they play. The linebackers can get downhill. I've been very impressed about what I've seen so far from them. They got good size inside, mixed between 4 down and 5 down, so for sure a challenge.
So fans that think that this is going to be an easy game, just because Tennessee's record is 3-8, just because we're 6.5-point favorites, we need to slow down a little bit here, because nothing from this Commanders team at this part of the season, because Dan Quinn likes to say, will this team beat the team from week 1, right? I don't know right now if this team in week 13 would beat the team that we had in week 1. Main reason being all the injuries we have. I mean, what do you think?
Well, I think that we're going back to the issues that we have had all year. We forget that our running defense is still, it's porous. I love the guys. You know I do. But
I mean, there's no doubt about that. I mean, no one's questioning that.
Yeah, but it's porous, and we've got to figure out a way to stop it. And we know, we look at it. Everybody talked about Rico Dowdle. Oh, he can't do anything, but he did. Dallas put Rico in a position to run the ball, and Dowdle replaced Pollard. Pollard is now with Tennessee. He is a formidable running back. And like anything else, I'm afraid that our run defense will be porous again, and Pollard is going to have a good game on us. I'm not sure what his under is, but I almost would take the over. I mean, unless by chance these guys just get a fiery speech and some cayenne pepper in their breakfast in the morning or something, and they can stop it. I don't know. That's what worries me, man. What worries you?
Those numbers aren't out yet, so I'm looking at it right now to try and see what the stats are. They don't have the player props yet, so it's only Wednesday. But I'm right there with you, right? You remember Bill Callahan when he was here?
Yes.
All he liked to do was run the ball.
Yeah.
Right? Those were some of the fastest football games I'd ever watched in my life. And thank God, because our teams were horrible. And all he liked to do was run the ball. Well, guess who is the head coach over in Tennessee?
Who's the head coach, Ted?
His son, Brian Callahan.
Oh, gosh.
The apple doesn't fall too far from that tree. And I remember seeing earlier on in this, you know how they like to do the pregame shows and the specials, talking about different human interest stories. Well, Brian's talking about how his father heavily influenced him and, his coaching style and blah, 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 and this and that. And I'm right there with you. I'm concerned about how we stop Tony Pollard. I'm concerned about what we're going to do, because Pollard last week, they beat a good Tennessee Titans team. Pollard put up a $119. Average 5 yards a carry, right? I mean, I am concerned. Our defense has been playing well, but the offense has been letting them down. And it's just a matter of time before that levee breaks, which it broke against Saquon. And yes, I get it. That's Saquon. And he's on a different level than pretty much everyone else out there right now, other than maybe Derrick Henry. But Pollard's still a good running back, and he's definitely better than Dowdle, in my opinion, just looking at the stats. So I've got some major concerns going into this game. And I don't know about you, but yes, I picked us to win, I think, 7 games to start the season off, right? I've already hit my FanDuel bet, right? Jaden scoring his last touchdown on that run. I hit my FanDuel bet over Jaden, his rushing touchdowns over the year, right? I'm happy about that. But I had a taste of the chance to make the playoffs. Our past playoff runs, we've always had to win out towards the end of the season. We have never had this much of a lead. And we've talked about how we're playing with house money. Realistically, I think we have to win 10 games to make the playoffs, right? We're a half a game ahead of the Cardinals right now. And we have the tiebreaker over Arizona, but we're a half a game ahead of Arizona. We've got 3 more games that I think we need to win to definitely get in. I'm looking at our schedule. I don't know what 3 games anymore I could guarantee us to win, because I thought Dallas, with their record, I did not think we were going to beat them by 10.5, but I did think we were going to beat them. I thought Tennessee.
I agree.
I thought we'd beat Tennessee with their record, with what Tennessee just did, and hearing about how good their defense is. I don't know if that's a gimme anymore. So I'm trying to think of, where do we get our 3 wins, right? Tennessee, to me, that's a coin flip. New Orleans, in the Superdome, knowing how crazy that place can get, even though their team isn't doing so well, but knowing how crazy that place can get, I feel that that's a coin flip right now. Philly coming to DC, I'm sorry, I think Philly is a far superior team, especially with Saquon and what he's doing. Atlanta, Kirk, I don't know what's going to happen there. And then Dallas, in Dallas, I think this game, for me, my opinion, if you think this team can make the playoffs, I think this game is a must win if we actually want to talk about postseason. Forget the division, just getting to the playoffs. Do you see it the same or no?
Well, I feel as though every game, we need to win every game to really solidify who we are, not only as a team, but for the fans. Because right now, the fans are down and out. They are ready to. We like you said, we had a taste, and that taste now it was good taste, good sweet taste. Now it's turned sour, and our fan base right now, we are in need, and so to get back on track, um, I feel as though every game we need to win. But because this is the game that's next, we need to win this game to give an uplift to the team for the bye, going into the bye, give them something to feel good about, as well as I said, this fan base needs something to feel good about with some time off. We go into the bye, 4-game losing streak. Oh, bro, people are not going to be happy. We need to win, bro.
Oh, you know what's going to happen if we lose this game going into the bye week? People are going to put their Eagles tickets on StubHub because it's December 22nd, right before Christmas, and they're going to sell those tickets, and we're going to get a green invasion again coming down to Landover.
Yep.
And I know I'm not going to do that. I know you're not going to do that. I'm not going to fault someone that does do that to try and, make some extra cash for the holidays and to pay their season tickets. And, oh, by the way, we didn't even talk about that. I mean, I'm glad the invoice came out earlier this year. I am frustrated about the increase. I'm trying to justify it, and it was easier to justify, obviously when we're winning because everyone's smiling about it. I know you and I had texted back and forth, and I don't know how much yours went up percentage-wise. I think they said there was an average of an 11% increase, but average to me, you can say average one thing, but if one person goes up, 200%, the other person goes up 500%, then obviously that average drops. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. They obviously know I'm renewing. They know you're renewing. We're going to be there no matter what, as long as we're breathing. But it is still frustrating. And to see that we're now limping towards the end of the season versus, hopefully trying to ride high. I hate to break it to Drew. I doubt we're hosting a home playoff game at this point. And for those of you wondering, Rally will book SB Events travel packages if we make the playoffs. So, just be on the lookout for that. But right now, that P word, man, I don't know.
So I got a question for you. And I think I know the answer to it, but and I want to poll our listeners as well. Knowing where we are as a team, do you want to go to the playoffs and be one and done? Or would you rather I guess understand what you have and take your lumps now versus going one and done?
I'd rather go to the playoffs. The records go out the window. You never know what's going to happen at that point in time. What the Giants, they were 9-7 when they won that one year. Right?
Yeah,
You can
they
go on
caught
a
fire.
run, right?
They caught fire. Yeah.
So
Okay.
it is just to be able to get there is one thing. On top of that, you have a lot of people on this team who have never tasted that before, right? Once you taste it, you want it again, right? And you want to do everything you possibly can to get it again. There is nothing like the postseason. So for these players to taste that and actually get a chance at that, and knowing what it takes to do that and get that again, right? To me, once you're in that instance, we're not talking about a huge life-shattering or life-changing draft pick at that point, right? I was cheering for us to lose that Jets game last year. I'm in the freaking Meadowlands at MetLife cheering for the Jets. And I know it pissed off a lot of Commanders fans and Washington fans, but realistically, that made sure that we could get Jaden Daniels, or else we were going to get a lot different pick. At this point, that's different. It's not that big a swing. We have found our franchise quarterback, right? There are people questioning Jaden. I'm sorry, Jaden is not the issue, right? This offensive line was out kicking their coverage, if you will. And I hate to even bring that up considering what just happened to us on 2 kickoffs, but this offensive line was doing a little more than they should have, right? Our defensive backfield is struggling. You can still get a good defensive back, right? You can still get a good number 1 compliment to Terry in the later parts of the draft, even though we're doing it. Look at what the freaking Chiefs did with who they drafted at wide receiver. The freaking fastest guy in the draft at that point at wide receiver who's making a difference over there. So I want a taste of the playoffs, and you never know if you can catch fire once you get in. So the fact that we're at 7 and we only need 3, we still control our own destiny, right? We're not relying on a freaking math wizard in all these different scenarios, right? But I need this team to step it up. And it would be good if we had a guy that we traded for that's supposed to be a number 1 corner to come out there and help us out, because people are saying, oh, it's the Titans are 3-8. Let's let Lattimore rest until the bye week. Now, if he is healthy and he's capable, I need to see his ass out there.
That was going to be my next question. Do you want to see Lattimore out there? And I have to tend to agree with you, although our secondary has been playing a little bit better. They're struggling, but they've been playing a little bit better. And I noticed that, everybody talks about St. Just, and I think what's the other kid's name? I can't. Anyway, but everybody talks about St. Just, and St. Just really wasn't last week. Really wasn't on the radar like that. I can't think of the kid who had a pass interference with Land. It wasn't St. Just. It was the other guy.
Yeah, and that was it was such a ticky-tacky pass interference call. But just looking at the last game, right, from a pass coverage perspective, St. Just was 10th with a 54, right? Noah Igbenogany is the guy that had the PI. He was a 46, right? Quan Martin was a 46. This is just in coverage, right? Not factoring in run defense or anything else. Jeremy Chin was a 45, right? Those are your DBs. Michael Davis, who got benched in week 1, if you don't remember, right? When he was going up against the freaking Bucks, was our highest graded DB at 56.7, right? We need Lattimore out there, right? And it gives you the ability to not have to worry about a certain portion of the field. And then we can maybe move Jeremy Chin in to focus on stopping Pollard and this run defense. And this is actually what DQ had to say about Lattimore
for the game. I want to start with something new. Marshawn Lattimore. What's he gonna be able to do today and maybe this week?
It's awesome. We're gonna get some first shots at practice with him today, and we're really following a rigorous process with him, John. And that's not just with Marshawn, but especially with soft tissue injuries. And we got a great staff, and they're working together also with him, and the feedback that goes with it, and also keep him safe as well. And but we are pumped to get him back out on the field. It's hard to predict on soft tissue injuries, and so it'll be awesome to have him back out, working into practice today.
What will Brian Robinson be able to do?
The two guys that will be out today will be Austin Eckler and Andrew Wiley. Both are in the concussion protocol, and everybody else will be practicing.
So some people that probably don't follow the Titans, right? But they've got a good wide receiver. His name's Calvin Ridley, right? And Calvin is no slouch, right? Just looking at what he did last week, he had 93 yards at that point. He put up, and this season, granted, they got their ass beat, and I don't know how many of these are garbage yards, but he still put up 143 yards against the Detroit Lions, right? The Lions, that's a good defense. And I'm sure the Lions were playing prevent, right? I'm sure that they had changed some things on their end, but to still put those kind of yards up against that defense, if we could have a Lattimore out there to potentially slow him down, shut him down, or help the run defense going up against this, I don't want to say formidable, but against this Tennessee team, right? We need all hands on deck at this point if we want to even have the thought of still controlling our own destiny. And that to me is what matters the most.
You win the games that you're supposed to win, and this is one of the games that we are supposed to win. When we looked at the schedule, going down a list, we said, oh, Tennessee, we should win that game. So here we are. Now it's just a matter of us showing and proving that we can win this game because, as I said, no one wants to go into your bye as a loser. You want to go into your bye winning as a winner, and this is the time to get it done and put another straw in your hat, if you will, to move on to New Orleans because, as you said, that dome, regardless, even if it isn't a full New Orleans crowd, it's going to be rocking, and we're going to be firing on all cylinders.
We definitely are. And for you, give me 3 things this team has to do to win. Commanders win if on Sunday in 20-degree weather, which now I'm starting to get frustrated about what you told me.
Well, actually, I think it's going to be 35-40.
That still sucks ass.
Yeah, it does. Special teams. Special teams can't allow the type of plays that happen. And Jeremy Revo, he said, hey, look, I know what I did wrong. And I got to tell you, Ted, as I said, I saw that play open up right in front of my face. And I said, oh, wow. I didn't think that he was going to do the spin move, but I could see back to the left, if you will, why he did that spin move, and it put him in position just to go right down the field. So, 1, special teams. 2, as banged up as our offensive line is, we've got to do better on giving Jaden more time to be able to see the field. 3, offensive coordinator, coach, you've got to be able to change up things when other things aren't working. Those are my 3. What do you say?
We got to get to Will Levis, right? He is a second-year quarterback, hasn't had the best season, right? We got no pressure on Cooper Rush. It's Cooper freaking Rush, right? He is 6-2 now as a starter because of us, right? He has beaten us twice, right, over the past couple of years, right? We got no pressure on him for whatever reason. We got to get to Levis. We have got to pressure him. We have got to get his ass on the ground, right? He's not a world beater by any means. I get he's a second-round pick, but this defense, they should and they need to be able to pressure him, right? We've got to turn them one-dimensional. Take their run game out of it. We kept giving Dallas so many 3rd and shorts. I was shocked at how many times they were 3rd and short and we still kept stuffing them, right? We cannot count on that against this Tennessee team, right? You're playing with fire at that point. And maybe we got a bunch of pyromaniacs on our team, but I'm sorry, I don't know about you. I don't like playing with fire, right? We need to stay ahead of the sticks on defense and keep them in 3rd and manageable or 3rd and long, because eventually that levee is going to break. And our offense isn't going anywhere. And we cannot rely on this defense to constantly just gamble and coin flips at 3rd and 2, 3rd and 1, 3rd and 3, like they did against Dallas. Pollard is a better back, right? This is a better coached running attack in Tennessee, in my opinion, than Dallas has. And 3, we have got to get this running game going somehow, because if Jaden turns one-dimensional with this offense, heaven help us on Sunday. I don't know what's going to happen at that point, because if you take our run game out of it, you take that play action threat out of it, and then you only make it where Jaden's the one using his legs, I don't like our chances, because the kid is trying to do too much to a degree at this point, because he has to keep us in these games, right? Yeah. And if we're putting all of this on his shoulders, not knowing if B-Rob is going to play, not knowing if Andrew Wiley is going to play because he's in a concussion protocol, right? We need other people on this team to step up and get this running game going, right? We have Allegretti, block your ass off. Cosme, block your ass off, right? Rodriguez coming in there. We got to get this thing going to move that ball and just get out of this game and just go into the bye week and worry about the rest later. But 6.5 points, I am not taking us with a 6.5 point spread. I'll tell you that right now. That scares the hell out of me.
Yeah, I think that they need to let Rodriguez be that hammer. Let Rodriguez, because the kid he can do that. He's not B-Rob, but I think he can be the hammer, and let him eat. And I really don't want B-Rob even seeing the field. I don't care if he is 50 or 60%. Let him go and rest into the bye, because we're going to need him down the road. And that's something else that everybody's talking about. Oh, he's injury prone and this, that, and the other. The fact is, his style of running, he's going to get hurt. And this wasn't even his fault. This last play when he got hurt, I mean, clearly it was a tackle that they banned from the NFL, but I haven't seen anybody call it. You know, I've seen horse collar being called, but as far as that whole hip drop and roll, whatever have you, I've very rarely seen it this year, at least from our teams. Maybe other teams have gotten that call, but I haven't seen it being called. So, but I definitely agree with you, man. And we've don't look past these guys. I think there's a sense of urgency now, better than before with the Cowboys, because we saw where we had a large window. That window is starting to close. And if we lose this game, instead of controlling our own destiny, as you said, we're going to be relying upon the numbers game to get into things if that's what we're really trying to do.
Yeah, I mean, the Cardinals, I think they've got Minnesota next. So that's going to be a tough one at Minnesota, playing up there, right? But their record of the remaining games, they don't look that daunting, right? Compared to some of our remaining games. They've got New England left on their schedule. They got Carolina left on their schedule. Like, those should be 2 easy wins for the Cards. And for them, they're at 6-5, right? You kind of factor those things in. I don't want to play the what if. What if, we would have beat the Steelers, right? It's just that one game. And that always happens to us every year. Like, what if we would have beat the Titans when we should have actually beat the Titans? And I don't know what's going to happen. I am picking us to win this week. I do think that the guys are going to bounce back and they're going to find a way to win. But I think it's going to be closer than you and I want it to be. I think it's going to be a tougher fought battle, which is crazy because they're 3-8, but throw their record out the window. This is a damn good Titans defense. And our offense has looked just complete opposite of what it was to start this season. We're putting up 30 points a game. But what are you thinking is going to happen?
I think 2017, close game.
I hate to say it. I think you're right. I guess the only saving grace of it being a close game is that means all the fans are going to stay. so we get that body heat to try and keep us warm in those stands. Because it sucks when we get blown out and it's cold and everyone is gone around you. And not that I'm like huddling up next to people, but when there's no one in my row or left in my section and it's just me and I can see my breath, it feels even colder, man.
And not only that, the opposing fans come right down to my row 1. They come right down to row 1 and want to take pictures and gloat and everything else. And I got to say, excuse me. I don't want to do that. So I want us to win this damn game is what I want. Well, hey, man, I hear the music playing in the background. As I always say, it's bringing another show to an end. I thank you guys for riding with us. And we look forward to seeing you this Sunday at the game. And if by chance you sell your tickets, please sell them to a Commanders fan. Please sell them to a vet. Please sell them to maybe somebody who's not as fortunate to go to a game. Because maybe they will cheer loud for the team if you can't make it. So that's going to do it. Remember, you rep it hard, or you don't rep it at all. Tailgate Ted, Rally Captain. We'll see you Sunday. We're out.